Welcome back to Ungoverned, snackable stories from me, Joan Cergol, a former town councilwoman from Huntington, New York, and recovering politician. I've said this podcast wouldn't be about politics, but given that I refer to myself as a recovering politician, I should probably do away with the elephant in the room and tell you what that's all about. Because the inescapable fact is that no matter what I do or call myself today, I am and always will be a former politician. And that experience, my friends, has definitely shaped my point of view. So let's rip that Band-Aid off now, shall we? Right here on my second episode of Ungoverned. With the benefit and clarity of hindsight and time, I can now see there was a distinct before and after me in the wake of my separation from politics. My story arc began with idealism and ended with cynicism, albeit I'm desperately still clinging to hope. Now, to be perfectly clear, I'm proud of the good work I did, work that was seen and appreciated by the voters, and I'm glad I did it, the whole shebang, running for elective office, the thrill of winning and serving. Truly, it's a rare privilege. And I'll always be grateful to the many people who not only helped me survive it, but who worked their tails off to help me come out on top in 4 elections. Ending it all was bittersweet. I do believe, as do many others, that me and politics could have easily gone on, but it was me who chose to end the relationship, like one does with anything that starts to feel, well, unhealthy. When I first entered the ring, my innate idealism told me it was to be in service to people as opposed to politics or a political party. But I learned quickly that there are wide-ranging ideologies associated with any political brand that will pigeonhole you. The problem is, I was never one to be pigeonholed, which is why I chose to be unaffiliated with a political party when I first registered to vote. It was many, many years later, in 2008, during the presidential bid of Barack Obama, when I was inspired by his simple yet eloquent message of hope and unity, and I went out and I registered to become a Democrat. Barack spoke my language, and it was in that spirit of hope and unity that I began to tread the halls of local government that led me straight to the gates of politics. My first wake-up call was when a seasoned and highly respected political advisor schooled me in the 2 separate and distinct ways to evaluate a given policy issue. First, through the lens of good government, and second, through the lens of politics. And then the kicker. He told me sometimes the two would not be one and the same. During my 6 years in elective office, I was never able to reconcile with that political calculus. My unshakable idealism and independence had me casting votes for what I truly believed to be for the good of government and the people I served, often over my own political interests. My experience as an outlier in politics reminded me of my time at Huntington High School in the 1970s. Like all high schools, we had a diverse range of cliques with some pretty entertaining names, among them the hitters, the freaks, the jocks, the discos. Oh yes, it was the era of Saturday Night Fever. I couldn't claim membership in any of those groups, but I will admit I harbored a mild fascination for what united and excited them. My curiosity gave me the courage to migrate from one group's lunch table to the next so I could listen in on their conversations about their choices of clothing, music groups, pastimes, and more. As a result, I made at least one friend in each of those groups, so there was always someone to wave me over to their table. You really can't do that in politics. Well, you can, but it's likely to raise the ire of more than a few of your party members. No, there's no table waving going on in politics. There are no come on over here gestures from one group to another so you can hear our jam. But there sure are plenty of bickering and gotcha moments. So I ask, when does that end so the work can begin? As an open-minded person who was probably too logical, pragmatic, and definitely too forgiving for my own good, I came to see and eventually accept the modern political world for exactly what it was: a system, by its very design, that pits one side against the other, discouraging bipartisan cooperation to the point that if and when it does happen, it's publicly hailed like some kind of a fluke. It's an unnatural and divisive environment, not always lending itself to normal human relations, much less productive communication, and, I'm sorry to say, from some limited experience, at times, an impenetrable boys' club. I'm going to take the leap by saying that I highly doubt this is what our forefathers had in mind for a sustainable and healthy democracy. I do take heart in the knowledge, but I'm far from alone in my distaste for the state of politics in our country and communities, evidenced by the ever-rising voter registration enrollment numbers representing those abandoning their political parties in favor of becoming independent or unaffiliated with a political party. In politics, we call them blanks. Now, the blanks are sounding the alarms in large numbers in rejection of tribalism and, in some cases, extremism of politics today. It's pretty bleak, but there are some voices lighting the darkness, like that of Tom Suozzi's. Now, Tom is a former New York congressman who was just elected to replace the indicted, expelled, and disgraced George Santos in New York's 3rd Congressional District. Like me, Tom is a moderate Democrat who understands that the only way forward in tackling and solving our nation's problems is by dropping our political pretenses, rolling our sleeves up, and doing the work that needs to get done. No matter where we stand politically, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that we have some massive problems to solve. But where there's chaos, there can be no solutions. Unfortunately, there are too many politicians littering our governments who seem to thrive on the chaos and actually prefer to keep it that way. Tom Suozzi is looking to do away with the chaos and to fill that void with more common sense. Common sense, my love language. During his very brief but victorious special election campaign, Tom Suozzi's call to action was, and continues to be, let's fix this. In the same spirit, my own campaign slogan, "We can do this," an homage to World War II's Rosie the Riveter, referred to the idea that it's possible to work together to win over the enemy. In our modern times, the enemy can be anything that impedes progress. And after my stint in politics, all too often, I've learned the enemy is us. Shortly after being sworn in, Suozzi took no prisoners in telling his colleagues in Congress the following: "Wake up! The people are sick and tired of finger-pointing and the petty partisan bickering. They want us to work together." Kudos, Congressman Suozzi, for telling it like it is, and Godspeed on your forthcoming bid for re-election this November. May your message of hope, strength, and resilience resonate far and wide. Indeed, the body politic is suffering chronic illness, but not beyond recovery, as long as there are people like Tom Suozzi and others speaking on an endless loop to end the madness. And so long as there are people like you and me who will use our voices and votes to hold those who prefer chaos accountable at election time. That's what I'm going to be doing along with this podcast as a form of therapy in the face of this insanity. And I hope you'll join me on both counts. If you listen to your music and podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, please look for and follow my podcast, Ungoverned with Joan Cergol, to keep up with new episodes. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.